Hey guys, it's Caleb and Henna, how's it going? So many of you will know that I really like to grow as many different types of fruits that I can. However, that often takes a large area of space. But today I wanted to show you that you really don't need a large area of land or a big garden in order to grow some of your own delicious fruits at home. Today we're going to look at 4 slightly unusual types of fruits that are all suitable for container growing or filling a small space in your garden. So let's get started with Cape Gooseberries. Alright guys, so this plant right here is a Cape Gooseberry, and these are my turkeys being absolute nutters. This plant has gone absolutely crazy because I have not pruned it at all, so it's kind of just sprawled over more than half of this entire garden, so quite a large space. These are a great plant that you can grow not only in your garden but in containers as well. If you grow them in containers, you want to probably stake them so that you can keep them sort of more upright, prune them to whatever size that you want, but if you've got the space and want to let it kind of sprawl all over, then that's another option as well. But they make for a very attractive perennial little shrub. So they only survive to around -2 degrees in the winter. But if you get warmer temperatures, you can grow them continually through the seasons and they should just come right back and grow again. In colder regions though, it can be grown as an annual plant that produces fruit within one season. So it's good to get the seeds going in spring, and they should grow well during the warm weather and provide delicious fruits in the late summer and autumn. They produce lots of these beautiful yellow flowers which are pollinated by bees and other insects, and after they're pollinated you'll see these green protective husks known as a calyx, and they kind of look like little lanterns. If you open those up and have a look, you'll see that it's got a tiny green fruit on the inside, so you definitely don't want to eat that. Don't eat them if they're green. When the fruits are ripe, the husks turn sort of dry and brown and papery. If you take a peek, and there's this nice golden fruit on the inside that is ripe and good to go. So this one is quite a lot smaller than they usually get because this is later in the season now. So these particular fruits haven't had that much warmth and sunlight and day length and things like that as we head into the winter now, but they still should taste pretty good. So let me try it. That was a really good one. It's really a good balance of sweet and tart. It's almost kind of reminiscent of some tropical fruits, maybe like pineapple, mango, mixed with cherry tomato as well, and almost like a bit of a citrusy taste as well, like maybe orange. Some of them are a lot more tart than others. Depends, I guess, on the ripeness, but the more goldeny orange, the more sweeter they're going to be. They're really high in fiber as well, and antioxidants, vitamin C, and other nutrients. And you can also use them in things like jams, preserves, sweet and savory meals because of that mixture of sweetness and tartness. Sometimes in the winter you can find some old fruits that had fallen under the plant, and sometimes the fruit will have completely disappeared from inside the calyx, leaving a little natural basket of seeds. So cool. These plants are really easy to grow from cuttings. I just take a branch and remove the lower leaves, and then place some cuttings into a pot with some potting mix. I keep them well watered, and they should take root pretty easily and be ready after a month or so to plant in a nice sunny spot. Before we move on to the next fruit, I know so many of you guys have been asking for an update of the food forest and how it's growing. And overall, there are things that are growing very well, especially the perennial plants that kind of just grow really well on their own without much effort. I have been really behind on a lot of the garden jobs lately because I've been going through some pretty tough challenges and things in my personal life that's been affecting me quite a lot, and the weeds are definitely not giving me a break. I know there may be many of you that are also going through some rough times and personal challenges, but one thing that's really helped me over the last few months to prioritize my well-being and get to a better place mentally has been working with a therapist. And I've been doing that online with BetterHelp, who are kindly sponsoring today's video. So BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy, and that way BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. You can schedule weekly sessions via phone, video, or chat at a time that's convenient to you, and you can message your therapist at any time as well. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you'd expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who's custom picked for you, and there's more scheduling flexibility and at a more affordable price. For me, it took a little while to eventually decide to get started with therapy, and honestly, I do wish I started it a bit earlier. But since working with a therapist, I do feel like I'm really getting back on track with things and finding the balance that I need. Anyway, you can get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/TheKiwiGrower. That's better HELP. And I'll leave a link down in the description for you to check out. Cheers, BetterHelp. So this beautiful little plant here is called a Pepino or Pepino melon. They're native to South America. And what I really like about these plants, well, there's actually a lot that I like about them, but they are quite an ornamental little shrub. They've got beautiful leaves and these bright purple and white flowers with the gold center. And the flowers actually remind me a little bit of potato flowers, and that's because these are in the same family, in that nightshade family, alongside potatoes, eggplants, tomatoes, those type of fruits, which is quite cool and interesting for a fruit that resembles more of a melon. So they can be grown as a little shrub like what I've got here, but you can also give them a bit of a trellis to climb up, and that will keep the fruits up off the ground, and they look quite cool like that. But what's really good about them is they often grow quite a lot of fruits on even a fairly small plant, which is awesome for those of you who grow in small spaces and want to grow some fruits in containers. And I've grown these in containers before and they go really well. So you just want a decent sized pot with some good free draining soil, and I usually mulch the top as well with a bit of wood chip or something like that. And as long as you keep them nicely watered and give them a bit of sun, and they don't mind a bit of shade as well, then they should provide you lots of delicious fruits through the summer and autumn. They do like a warm climate, so these can handle just a light frost and temperatures down to around 0. But if you don't want to grow them out in the open, if your area is too cold, again, a container is great because you can protect them through the winter. So yeah, once the flowers are pollinated, the fruits start to develop and they get larger and larger, and eventually they start to develop these purple stripes down the length of the fruit. And the green skin then starts to go a bit more of a golden color, and that's usually when they're about ripe. But there are different varieties of Pepino as well. Some even have a fully purple skin, which is pretty cool. But anyway, there's quite a lot of large fruits in here which are looking good, so we'll harvest some of those and go give them a taste. So it's got kind of a light yellowy or orangey kind of flesh, and it looks really juicy, really nice, and there's only just a few seeds in the middle, so not many at all. Just cut those out, or you can actually just eat those too if you want. The skin is smooth and almost paper thin, and it kind of has like a waxy texture, and it does just peel right off if you want to just peel it, easy as. And then you got the piece of juicy melon. It's really good. Yeah, just really juicy and kind of like a rock melon or a cantaloupe melon in texture, and slightly like that in taste as well. Some of the ones I've had have slight more cucumber taste in there as well, so yeah, cucumber and rock melon sort of mixed together, but this is super juicy and yeah, just a nice refreshing summer fruit. You can grow these plants from seed, but one of the easiest ways is to just propagate them from cuttings. All you do is just take a few cuttings off the plant and remove some of the lower leaves, just leaving a few at the top. Then place some of the cuttings in a pot with some potting mix, give them some water and keep them in a slightly shaded area to take root. After around a month, you can then separate the plants and pop them into your garden or a container to keep growing bigger. If you want, you can also put the cuttings in a glass of water, and after a few weeks they'll develop roots and then you can plant them out. So this beautiful little evergreen shrub that is covered in all of these fruits at the moment is called a Chilean Guava. It goes by a bunch of other names as well, but they're native to Chile and Argentina, so in South America. And we'll talk a little bit more about the fruits in a second, but if you look close at the leaves, they've got these really thick, dark green, leathery type leaves, which can handle a bit of frost, which is really great. I have read they can handle about -6 degrees Celsius, and then other sources have said -10 degrees. So yeah, they do have a bit of frost tolerance. I have no trouble growing them here in our winters, but we only get to about -2 degrees Celsius. They're also a really good one for growing in containers because the bushes don't get very big, usually only around a metre or so, but you can kind of train them and prune them to whatever size you want. Back in the spring and summer is when these first flower, and they create these beautiful pink bell-shaped flowers which are quite fragrant, and they're self-fertile as well, and they can fertilize themselves even without the need for insects and other pollinators, which is really great. And it means that you only need one of these plants too. You don't have to have a bunch of them, but you could as well because they are quite small and compact. And some people will even grow these as like a boxed hedge type thing, and you know, they can prune them into more of a formal garden landscape. So it's autumn now, and throughout the life of these little fruits, even when they're small and unripe, they still are this bright red color. But what you'll find is when they are ripe, they actually go more of a lighter color as opposed to going a more darker red, like many other berries would as they ripen. So it's quite interesting. It's almost a little bit backwards. Some of the ripe ones even go as light as this one here, which is very kind of greenish, whitish, and pinkish all at the same time. It's good to make sure when you're harvesting these to look underneath the plant because they will just fall off when they are fully ripe. See, if I just give that a shake, there's a few just falling down to the ground. So you don't want to miss out on those ones. So you just want to pull the stem off and then it's good to eat. A really, really good flavor. Kind of strawberry mixed with guava, but the strawberry being more like an artificial type flavor. Really, really sweet candy flavor, but also a little bit of a herby kind of taste as well in the background. Really nice tasting fruit, really unique. The inside of the fruit is a white color with these tiny little seeds. They're not very noticeable at all, but the flesh is soft and quite silky, and the texture is a little bit like a blueberry. Those are so good. Once you have one plant, they're very easy to grow from cuttings as well, which is awesome. So all you want to do is just take a little branch and then strip off the lower leaves, maybe on about half of the cutting. Place a few of those into a pot with some potting mix and keep it slightly moist. Place that somewhere warm, but ideally not in the extreme full sun, just somewhere, slightly shadier. And after maybe a month or a little bit longer, you can take those out and then plant them wherever you want, whether it's in more containers or into your garden, and grow a whole heap of these. I learned something really interesting about these plants the other day, and that's that you can also utilize the leaves, which is really good to know. This is something that was done traditionally by indigenous people in South America, where they would take the leaves and make a Chilean Guava leaf tea. So you could either dry the leaves or use them fresh by chopping them up nice and finely and making a tea. And the tea was thought to treat different ailments. But also there's been some studies done on these which has shown that they've got really high antioxidant properties. And by taking it as a tea, it's been shown to increase the antioxidant level in people's plasma, which can be very beneficial for your health. That's kind of nice. It's slightly sweet and has, I guess, just like a leafy sort of taste as you'd expect. So a great thing to know, and just another benefit of these plants, especially if you're pruning your plant and you've got all these clippings, why not save some and make some tea from them? So I've saved the best for last. This is a very special type of strawberry plant, but as probably a lot of you guys know, strawberries are a great option if you want to grow some fruit in containers, no matter the type. But this is a really cool one that I wanted to show you. It's called a white Alpine strawberry. It's one of my favorite garden snacks that I've got out here in the garden. It is so delicious. But basically these plants are quite cool because they've got a long-lasting season, usually longer than just other strawberries. They go right from spring through the summer into the autumn, sometimes even a bit in the winter if you have a mild winter. So that's really good. They can handle cooler temperatures fairly well. And the fruit are really interesting because they're a white kind of creamy color when they're fully ripe, which is actually really good because it means you don't have to cover your plants in netting to stop the birds getting the fruit, because the birds just don't really recognize them as being a ripe fruit. The fruits are much smaller than most other strawberries, but the flavor really packs a massive punch. I usually like to get multiple strawberries all in my hand at once and then just have a whole mouthful because it's just a flavor explosion. These have just such an incredible flavor. So good. The flavor is a bit like other strawberries, but much sweeter, much punchier. They have kind of a slight pineapple taste in there as well, and floral notes too. But yeah, just really complex flavors. Sometimes I even feel like they taste kind of like those grape flavored lollies, if you've tried those before. So yeah, just really nice, really different. There's a couple of easy ways to propagate these plants as well. So one way is by seeds, and it's typically not the way that I go about it, but it is kind of cool because I've done it from seed before, and the fruits ended up reverting back to being a red color, and some of them were even a mixture of red and white when they were ripe, so it was kind of a mottled color throughout the fruit, which is really cool. But the plant remained having the same characteristics as the white Alpine strawberries. They also don't throw out runners. So they're a great ground cover plant that doesn't take over. They stay where you put them, and the plants just kind of reproduce slowly outwards in a clump. So you can just get in there with a trowel or a spade and just dig off a corner of the plant and then go and plant that somewhere else or give it to a friend or whatever you want, and that will produce another plant and grow yourself a bunch more berries really quickly. So yeah, overall an amazing plant that I couldn't recommend enough because they're just such a good garden snack, especially if you put it somewhere in your garden where you're walking past all the time, so you can make the most out of seeing the fruits every day and picking them off as soon as they're ready. This was just a small look at the few of the many types of fruits that are suitable for growing in containers or small spaces. And don't forget to check out my link below to better help, and also let me know what fruits you like to grow in containers. I'm sure it'll be helpful for other people to read those comments as well. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.